Welcome to COVID and Guns, a video series brought to you by the Center for Firearms Law. During this series, we talk to experts on various aspects of firearms law and policy about the role of guns in the ongoing pandemic. I'm Jake Charles, Executive Director of the Center, and today I'm joined by David Kopel, Research Director at the Independence Institute and Adjunct Professor of Advanced Constitutional Law at the University of Denver's Sturm College of Law. Thanks for joining me today, Dave.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So first off, can you just tell us a little bit about the perspective from which you approach the study of firearms?
You mean in a methodological sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's pretty omnivorous. The first major things I wrote were, one, a conference paper, which then turned into a book that called The Samurai, the Mountie, and the Cowboy. Should America adopt the gun controls of other democracies? And so I compared and contrasted America, its gun history, gun culture, gun laws, with 7 other democracies. And so for that, it's just a matter of reading everything you can find, whether that's history or law or social science studies or anything else. And in 1988, my sort of first big publication on the gun issue was a policy analysis for the Cato Institute, where I'm an adjunct scholar, Trust the People, the Case Against Gun Control. And that was 52 pages, and it consolidated, synthesized, and analyzed all of the existing research and cases and studies on the issue, of which there weren't a lot. Actually, in 1988, I knew almost everything there was to know about the gun issue. Proportionally, I'm much more ignorant now, but that's one of the things we're trying to do in the 80s, was to get this to be a serious topic of scholarly study. So in that sense, I range all over. And that continues to be true in both the briefs I write and in the monographs or law journal articles or books. But that said, what my favorite stuff is law and history. That's where my professional academic training has been. And I think that's, for me, that's the most interesting.
Yeah, thanks. That makes a lot of sense. So next question I want to ask you about is, we've seen a lot of reporting about kind of the increase in gun sales that's motivated, at least in part, by COVID. And I just want to get your perspective on what you think might be motivating people to purchase guns at a time like this.
Well, I think there are some traditional ones and some different ones. We know that traditionally, one of the things that motivates people to buy a gun today rather than, oh, maybe I'll buy one next year or at some point, is fear of gun prohibition. That I better buy it now while I can. And most states, I think, have properly respected the right to arms in terms of following federal guidelines, saying that gun stores are essential businesses. Of course, they have to practice social distancing and all the safety that any responsible retailer would. There have been a minority of states that have shut down gun stores entirely. So you read about that happening in one state, it makes you think, well, boy, I better buy one now while I can. So I'd call that in the traditional category. And then I think there's a second thing, and I suppose this is traditional in a way too, is people realize that we're not always you're not so privileged as a American that you're guaranteed to be in a grid up situation all the time. Happily, you and I our internet's working well. When you order food at the grocery store, they have food for you to come and pick up. All that's great. But there are times when the public safety infrastructure breaks down. That in New Orleans, after Hurricane Katrina, where basically the police fled the jurisdiction, and so you had these murderous looting gangs, and it was up to the citizens there to protect themselves if they had the tools to do it with. And so we're not in that situation currently for the most part, but we don't know how things are going to go. Hopefully, I don't think we're in a situation where, by June 1st, everything's going to be permanently back to normal and we'll just remember this as some kind of weird dream. What happened?
Although we can hope.
Yeah, police departments are, you can hope, but you want to be prudent too. And with police departments, some of them getting really hit by COVID themselves, of course, because they got to be out in the public. Some people are saying it's time to take responsibility for protecting my family, because I can't always count on the government to do it for me. And I'd say probably on top of that, there's just this aspect of people inventorying their emergency tools. So just for example, in this current thing while at home, I've checked all the fire extinguishers in the house, made sure we have one in every bedroom, kind of done that count, fixed all the smoke alarms, all their batteries are in place and they're hanging in appropriate cases. And I actually found one fire extinguisher that by the dial needs to be recharged, even though it's never been used. So that's on my agenda of things to do. And I imagine other people going through that are also saying, okay, what, do I have this and that, and what's our supply of prescription drugs or Advil, everything else. And some of them saying, yeah, I should have a firearm in the house. I don't want to be a competitive target shooter, but this is one of the safety tools that should be available if needed in an emergency.
Yeah, so I guess what I hear you saying is maybe some of the traditional reasons for gun ownership are made clearer to people in the midst of something like this. And then there are some other new reasons that are emergency preparedness that are brought about solely by having a situation like COVID.
Sure, and there may be some people who say, well, this seems like a good time if I'm thinking about what sports and hobbies to have, something you can do outside with social distancing. Seems pretty good. Certainly at a gun range or hunting, it's very possible to stay more than 6 feet away from other people, be out in the sunshine and have some fun learning a challenging new skill.
Yeah. So in addition to kind of the motivations for why people might be either buying their first gun or buying more guns, do you think that do you think that the argument for the motivations of people buying it are different than maybe some other benefits that there might be to having guns during this time, or do you think kind of those two things
Well, I'd say that this is probably not one of those times when there have been other things when, gun control has been the number one issue and people are worried about a lot of new controls coming. That, I think, often motivates, say, the guy who has 3 guns and has sort of lifetime aspirations for a couple more models he's got his eye on, and he decides it's time to get them this week rather than waiting till a year or two from now. I'm not sure, sir, there's been that much of buying by those kind of people. I think a lot of them, have their guns, and what you hear, at least anecdotally from the gun stores, is the vast majority of the customers have been first timers.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That it might be people who haven't had one before, haven't seen a need for a firearm before, maybe are now either trying to take up a new hobby, like you said, that allows for social distancing, or maybe taking stock of their emergency preparedness.
Yeah. Yes.
And then, so I guess just like a last question here, I know that you're not just a gun scholar, but also a firearms instructor. Do you have any concerns or advice for maybe first-time gun buyers who aren't able to get to a range to train or practice with their new firearm in states maybe where those aren't open or as accessible as they might otherwise be?
You bet. So the first thing to do is read the safety manual that comes with the gun. Every new gun you buy is going to have a really good manual that's going to give you details on safe operations. So since you're at home anyway, turn off the TV. You can binge watch something ahead, 45 minutes later, read the manual carefully and understand it. And then actually maybe go back a week or two later and reread it for increased comprehension. There are a lot of organizations that have good resources for online learning about guns, and you just search for them. I would say certainly one I would recommend is the National Rifle Association, founded in 1871. It is the oldest gun safety organization in the country, and they have in recent years moved a good deal of their instruction to online. They still teach lots and lots of in-person classes which aren't available now, but some of their classes are available online. And for the first time buyer, I'd recommend 2. One is it's their basic pistol class. And if you might want to get a concealed carry permit one day, that's usually a class that you would have to take. You'd have to take that class or something like that. And then secondly, this is not exactly for guns, but it includes guns, is hunter education has a lot of great online resources these days. The NRA has some, but there's lots and lots of others you can find and take, and those will teach you, besides good gun safety mechanics and all those things, they'll also teach you some outdoorsmanship, identifying game, things like that, useful skills to have. That'll be a longer course, but you're home, so why not have some fun and do something? And then I've got one other recommendation for folks is, for some people who want to do practice at home, there's something called dry firing, which is you practice holding, gripping the gun, which is good to practice just in itself. And you practice that. Well, here I'll show you. When you're holding the gun, you don't have your finger on the trigger till you're ready to shoot. Even when you're putting it on target, your index finger to pull the trigger is outside the trigger guard and straight. And it's only when you're on target and about to shoot where you bring it in and then press the trigger. So you can practice that. But then to go to the next level is dry firing, which is shooting the gun with no ammunition in it. Of course, you have to be absolutely certain there is no ammunition. But a lot of people do that at home. With some guns, dry firing can damage the gun. So that's another reason to read the instruction manual. But I just want to show people something where even with a gun that it says don't dry fire it, they will say it's okay if you use some kind of substitute so that the firing pin hits a surface. This is called that's made by Packmeyer. It's dummy ammunition. You see it has a little spring inside. And then when the firing pin hits the primer in the center, which normally would cause the explosion, it just hits something, but it has something to recoil against. You can buy all kinds of things like this online. Here's another one, not as sophisticated. This is for a 38 special, or sorry, this is 9mm. And even simpler, this would be for the 223 rifle. You can find these online, and even if you don't do dry fire, you can use them, for example, to practice loading and unloading the magazine, things like that. So there's a lot of good gun safety products and advice out there for people to have. And I'd say the community of people who were already gun owners is very welcoming to these million or more, maybe 2 million new gun owners. And you'll find gun owners love providing safety instruction, help, and mentoring. So if you've just got a neighbor who's a gun owner, or your wife's second cousin, whatever, reach out to them, and you'll find lots of people who really want to help you be safe and have fun.
Well, that's really helpful and informative information, and appreciate you joining us today. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you had a good time talking with us, and I know that it's going to be really informative to our audience here.
Well, thank you, and I hope we one day are able to see a Blue Devils game together in person.
Yes, I hope so too. So thanks for all of you for joining us at home as well. Please stay in touch with us. If you have questions or comments about this or any of our future episodes, reach out to us via email at firearmslaw@law.duke.edu. Follow us on Twitter at Duke Firearms Law. Check us out on the website at law.duke.edu/firearms, and subscribe to our blog, Second Thoughts, which you can find on our website. And we'll also put up the information for Dave's wonderful websites and blogs as well, so you can follow him and check out his work as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.